The views and opinions expressed by the Loft Party Podcast panel participants and guests do not necessarily reflect those of the Good Times with Good People company, the host, or its sponsors.
Just not getting it.
Welcome everybody out there in podcast land. The Good Times with Good People company proudly presents the Loft Party Podcast, where it is always about good times, good people, and good talk. Now that you've received your invitation, the best way to let us know that you're in attendance is to download the party or become official by joining us on Facebook, subscribing on YouTube, iTunes Podcasts, or Google Play Podcasts. Good. Thanks for joining us. Grab a cocktail, light a cigar, or whatever you like to smoke. Share us with your friends, and make yourself at home. I'm your host and moderator, Rio, and let's introduce today's panel. All right, hey out there in podcast land, I'm your host, Rio, and welcome to the Loft Party Podcast, episode 73, another 9/11, another disaster. From the memory of crashing planes to the constant threat of hurricanes. Watch what's falling down around you. But before we get into all that, let's introduce today's panel. I have got Brian Massey, our personal brain mass. He is a market analyst for True Media. I've got Adrian Lewis. And I was about to say the name of your foundation, but I don't want to mess it up. What is the name of it one more time for the people?
Called Path to Vision.
Path to Vision. Lane Boland, one half of the Brothers Grimm, and the anonymous female, because she doesn't want you to know her name. And so that brings us to the important things. So what are we drinking? And what we are drinking today, let me get my copious notes that I've taken on this drink because our bartender Ben had to leave early. We're drinking a FARMHOUSE FIZZ. That is 1.5 ounces of Rieger gin, a 3/4 ounce lemon juice, 3/4 ounce vanilla simple syrup, egg white, 4 drops of Bitterman's orange cream citrate, and 1 ounce of Boulevard Tank 7 Farmhouse Ale.
Sounds like a riff on the Ramos Gin Fizz.
Kinda. You put all that in a glass with some ice, shake it vigorously, and you add orange zest to garnish. And that is today's drink, the FARMHOUSE FIZZ. And then the question is, well, if we know what you're drinking, what are you smoking? And today we are smoking the Illusione MK. This is an interesting smoke. It's actually not very expensive. And when you see this cigar, it was actually rated one of Cigar Aficionado's 2016's top 25 of the year. But it's only about an $8 or $9 stick, and it's only really distinguishable if you see them by, it's a white wrapper with just the letters MK printed on it in black. And it's actually quite an interesting cigar. It's complete Nicaraguan smoke, so binder, wrapper, and filler. And I have to say, it's a simple, kind of straightforward smoke, but it does have some coffee notes, a little spice, and slightly sweet to the palate. I think that you will enjoy the Illusione MK if you ever get a chance out there in podcast land to check that out. We're gonna have one more person joining us, and that would be Jordan Bradbury. He is in industrial supply sales, and we are gonna move forward because I think he came in, he sat down, and he had to get back up.
I think he's going to get a drink.
Yeah, he'll be back. So, I thought about something one day, and we always mention RIPs on the show, and I do think that's appropriate. And today's RIP is no one person in particular, but we're going to pray for Florida and with the devastation with recent Hurricane Irma that just hit over the weekend down there, and of course continuing with the Houston and Gulf area with the devastation that they have from Hurricane Harvey. It's been, and it's just the beginning of hurricane season. It's been a hell of a season already. But I decided, instead of celebrating only the people who have left us, let's say happy birthday to a few people. Sure. Because this is the Loft Party podcast, so let's keep the party going and say happy birthdays to a couple people. A couple of celebrities that I figured out today was their birthday. One of my favorite actresses, Taraji P. Henson, it's her birthday today. Ludacris, Chris Ludacris Bridges, his birthday is today. For those of you who like the crooners out there, Harry Connick Jr., personally, my own daughter out there, you know who you are if you are listening at all, and happy birthday to you, which I've already told you today, but I'm going to tell you on the podcast because I love you. And for my brother in Seattle listening, because I know you don't know, but I know that you would care, reggae artist Elephant Man. It's his birthday today too, because my brother only listens to music if you can't understand what language is being screamed. So, with all that being said, we'll be right back. Hey, you can search for the Loft Party Podcast on iTunes Podcasts, Google Play Podcasts, and on our Good Times with Good People YouTube channel. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook, tweet us on Twitter, and if you like the content we provide, donate to us on Patreon. www.patreon.com/Loft Party Podcast. You can find all of our links below. And now back to our regularly scheduled program. All right, so, and we are back. And before we get too deep, let's play a quick party game. So today's party game is brought to you by the anonymous female. She asked me this question, and I thought that would be a good question to ask. And the question is, what is the best guitar solo you've ever heard?
Live?
No.
On records.
Gotcha.
But was it a live performance of a record?
Yes.
Okay, so we will start with Adrian then.
Santana.
Yeah. What record was he doing?
What was the name of it? That was the one he did the mix when he had CeeLo, he had...
for that, I know what album you're talking about, but I can't call it that.
Yeah, it came out years ago.
Yeah, was it the one with Maria and all that?
We actually did a live one after he released it, and it was pretty dope. Really dope.
Yeah, actually, Santana, he definitely ranks up there. I know we had mentioned this question because we had dinner with Brain Mass and Dr. Mass the other
That's
day.
funny.
Yeah.
He's gonna
So
tell
you've
us
had
that.
a chance to think about your answer.
Yeah,
Go for it.
I think
But he came up with one almost immediately.
yeah,
So.
on the spot I said there was a guitar solo in Blinded by the Light that I've always been in love with. Just an awesome. The song kind of slows down and it just goes for a bit. But after having some time to think about it, I would actually go with a bass guitar solo from Victor Wooten, who plays this plays Amazing Grace, and he uses harmonics on his bass guitar, and he does it live, and it's phenomenal. It's really, really good.
All right. Lane?
Can't say I know music well enough to have a valid opinion.
I know you listen to the blues.
Sure.
I know you got a blues record that got a riff in there that you like.
Yeah. Let's see. trying to. BB King's. Is it Magnolia Seed or? It's something seeds.
It might be Magnolia Seeds.
From like 72.
But I'll take BB King as a general answer. BB King's an incredible guitar player. I'll take BB King as a general answer. That'll be fine. What do you think, Jordan?
Indianola Seeds. That's what.
Yes.
I'm kind of torn between, and forgive me if this is wrong, I think it may be Watchtower, Jimi Hendrix.
Along the Watchtower.
Yeah.
Is that what he sets the guitar on?
I said somebody was gonna say.
Yeah, somebody's got to say Hendrix. I mean, you got to.
So I've got like a little twist in there too. So Jimi Hendrix, Watchtower, Along the Watchtower, whatever. And Life Jennings, Stick Up Kid. He did like an acapella, like an acoustic, and it was just like, just heartfelt.
You know what? I forget that Life plays guitar. I actually forgot that he plays guitar.
I haven't heard from him in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like, that spoke to me for some reason.
Because actually, the first time I heard Life was he was on like Showtime at the Apollo, trying not to get booed, and he was playing guitar, and I was like, I had forgotten all about that. You know, female.
Mine is, well, when I asked you this, it was probably, what came to mind, I asked this while we were listening to Purple Rain, for one, but mine's probably Slash and Sweet Child of Mine that I think of the most when I think of great guitar solos. But you know how I feel about Hendrix, so.
Yeah. I'm still sticking with Prince. He may not be the greatest guitarist ever, but just some of the. But as a matter of fact, that album, that Purple Rain album, like some of the most just memorable solos in the guitar world. Just that album was pretty amazing.
You still got to rank him up there though, just because he may not be known just for playing the guitar.
He's an incredible guitar player.
He's just incredible, all over the board, man.
Yeah. First of all, he can play everything. like I think he just hires bands because he can't play it all by himself on stage. Because he can replay everything.
You guys got what, like 5'2" coming out, and just ripping it, with some heels on. Go ahead.
Maybe or maybe not with ass in his pants.
Some chaps on.
But definitely with heels. That's crazy. And with that, we'll be right back.
All right.
Hey out there in podcast land, we would not be doing our duty if we didn't acknowledge the sponsors of the Loft Party Podcast, the Majestic Restaurant and Jazz Club, and the Majestic's Pendergast Club. The Majestic carries on Kansas City's tradition of great food and jazz. Let them show you why they are the classic Kansas City steakhouse experience. 931 Broadway, just 3 blocks from the Kansas City Convention Center. J. Rieger & Company, a Kansas City distillery. Whether whiskey, gin, or vodka, neat or on the rocks, J. Rieger, Kansas City, sipping good since 1887. C&P Construction, Kansas City's premier wood framers. 50 years of quality framing and craftsmanship. Just email david.cnpservice@gmail.com and start building something new today. And our friend and frequent guest, Lane Boland. Thank you all for all that you do. Time to rejoin the conversation. All right, and we are back. Okay, here we go. Party politics. So, we're just gonna jump right on in there. Let's talk about DACA. So, does anybody else at the table know what the acronym actually stands for?
Oh, I knew it this morning. Because they said it on the news. Do you want me to look it up?
Yes, actually, while we're talking about it when you have it. Anyway, so basically, Obama's administration set this up as a safeguard for. You got it?
Deferred action for childhood arrivals.
Okay, so let's say
So it's like what, kids up to age 7 that show up here?
It just says is an American. Oh, you know.
well, no. I mean, because a lot of them are millennials at this point,
Yeah.
but they were brought here
Right.
as children
Before
right?
school age. You know?
Right.
Is an American immigration policy established by blah blah blah. As of 2017, approximately 800,000 individuals are dreamers.
So
I'm trying to see when, like, age range.
No. So the biggest problem is the promise under the Obama administration was register for DACA and we won't turn those names over to ICE, and that gives you a path toward eventual citizenship.
Right.
And what Trump has done is basically said, I'm just, because that was an executive order, I'm just revoking that order. And I'm going to turn it over to Congress and make Congress do something in the next 6 months. Or anything that's not already in the pipeline is null and void, and we'll start deporting people. And so
He did rescind that threat, though.
he did
Somewhat. He said, I'm giving them 6 months. And then he said, and if they don't come up with something on another day, then we'll look at it again.
we'll look at it case by case.
I think this is a gambit. I think it's a ploy. I don't think he's dumb, but I don't think he's
Well, and
I don't think he's that dumb.
right. And what I think he's doing is he's putting pressure on both his rebellious Republicans as well as the Democrats, because what he really wants done in the next 6 months is tax reform.
Mm-hmm.
And so think about it. He did a 6-month extension on DACA. So this is gonna be like the sword of Damocles hanging over Congress's head. Like, hey, all right, you can give me what I want, and I'll let you have what you want.
Right. Which is crazy because everybody a couple points down, but it kind of ties right in. Is when he went in and did the meeting and gave the Democrats what they wanted for keeping the government open for the next few months.
Right.
All of this is part of the sword that he's hanging over Congress's head. He's like, all right, I've given you a 3-month pass on this and a 6 months pass on this, but by the time that's all over, you better fix something.
Like, he has to get this tax thing done, otherwise he'll be a one-term president.
Oh yeah, and I think this is me personally.
This says anybody that's a dreamer is. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish.
They had to arrive here before the age of 16
Oh, okay.
and lived here continuously before turning 16 and lived here continuously since June of 2007.
Got it.
Yeah, so like I say,
most
some of
of
these
them
people are in the military. A lot of these people are.
Yeah, and it says most of them are currently in the age range from 15 to 36.
Could you imagine you got here like 15 years old, you've never lived anywhere else
Or younger, for that matter.
since that age,
Right.
You're in your 30s,
Right.
and now somebody's talking about deporting you to a country you really don't even know a goddamn thing about. Like that's
You don't speak the language.
yeah, that's scary.
So
For real.
you know that this actually they call. Do you know why they're called dreamers? I'm reading this. I didn't know it. There
Because
was
Anchor
a.
Baby was taken.
Maybe. They introduced a bipartisan act in 2001 that was Development Relief and Education for Alien Minors, DREAM Act.
That's the dream act.
It was introduced by, now I lost it, who introduced it, but people you know. I mean, like names, you know, but they keep denying it. So Obama made it into an executive order because they wouldn't pass it. But once again, they tie his name to something, and then it becomes like, you know, kryptonite for everybody or whatever.
Yeah.
It's so stupid.
Yeah.
Can't tell
how do you feel
I was
about
saying,
it?
can't tell I'm annoyed at that, right?
So with Trump holding this over the heads of Congress, you know, I'm curious knowing how slowly Congress really moves, you know.
Orrin Hatch.
I mean, you know what? I was gonna say Orrin Hatch, but I wasn't sure if I was right.
Orrin
Anyway.
Hatch and Dick Durbin.
Now here's what's amazing. Orrin Hatch
Yeah.
introduced the Dream Act.
Right.
Orrin Hatch, he's like one of the worst in Congress.
Makes George W. look like a liberal.
Oh man, I'm like, and that guy introduced the Dream Act. So you know how horrible it must seem for them to be rescinding it if somebody as kind of despicable as Orrin Hatch has been over the years was the one who said, you know what, we should do something and try to get these people to be citizens. Like that's amazing to me.
Sure.
But you know, I was liking Congress to like a cruise ship. You know, everybody wants Congress to be, you know, like a cigarette boat. They want it to be fast and nimble, but it's really the Titanic. Like you can't steer it fast. You can't turn nimbly. You can't it's super huge. And as fast as it goes, it's just that big. So you can't turn a corner on a dime. Do we even think they can pull something off in 6 months?
And there aren't enough lifeboats.
Yeah, and there never are enough lifeboats.
Considering Congress don't even write their
Leonardo is going to freeze in the water.
It's going to hold
So
the
you
door.
think this is leverage to get the tax bill?
I mean, out of everything he's proposed, the only thing that has any actual weight that could possibly get done is a tax bill. Nobody's gonna build this wall. Nobody. You know what? Mexico's not paying for it. We're not paying for it.
Hey, hold on. In defense of the wall. China.
Wait. Let me say this real quick. Lane is bullshitting because he is not defending this wall.
China has had a wall for like 1,500 years. I guarantee you not a single Mexican has jumped that wall.
I can guarantee that too.
Yeah, I think I can go with you on that.
I'll say American too.
I'm not gonna say. I'm just saying. I'm gonna say.
I want
no.
Trump to do. I want him to go up there and say that. That would.
I wonder if there would be crickets or the followers would be stupid enough to be like, yeah!
See?
No doubt. Absolutely. No doubt.
Tucker germs. See, they can do it. You know, like
Don't give him any ideas.
You know there are no Mexicans over there, right?
I'm sorry. Go.
Yeah, it's quite all right. Yeah, I guess that's been my thing. Like, is it even possible for them to get anything done? I do think that they won't. The one thing that a lot of the Republican Party will do that Trump, I think, won't do is he won't allow the government to shut down.
No.
But anything else that he throws over their heads, I just don't see them actually getting it done.
Right.
I guess I looked at DACA as more of a ploy for voting. And if he was able to get all the 800,000 out, if the 800,000 start having kids, obviously their children are citizens. We don't know how deep that goes. Now they're actually citizens of the U.S. They can
Well, and that's the thing that makes the DACA so tangled. It's, you know, that age range is huge. So a lot of these people have families at this point.
You know, I think,
And kids that were born here.
look at it this way. DACA is enabling people who have absolutely no way of paying taxes to become tax-paying citizens, right?
Well, so do you know how much money
Yeah.
we pull out of the rolls if we get rid of 800,000?
You know.
I'm sure you know.
Well, I'm sure Trump didn't, and somebody probably let him know.
Imagine this. So the Republicans are going to hop up and down during this tax legislation process. We need lower tax rates. We need lower tax rates, right? And Democrats are going to say, hey, how the hell are we going to balance the budget? Because we have this thing called the Affordable Care Act, which you morons had absolutely no way of repealing now.
Right.
And then they're going to be like, oh, wait, we do need these illegals.
We do.
So this is Trump's way of kind of ensuring that. I hate the guy, but this is.
I think you might have. You might be on to something.
I got lost there.
Okay.
Yeah. So, okay, kind of give me the.
Okay, with this kind of legislative making, both the Republicans and the Democrats are going to have to go back to their constituencies and be like, hey, I fought the fight and I won blank concession.
Got it.
Right? They can't come back and be like, oh, I bent over for Trump,
Right,
re-elect me.
Yeah, they have to say I won something for you.
So Trump is giving the Democrats an out, right, to go along with lowering the to play along with the Republican tax agenda so that they can go back and say, hey, we saved Obamacare and we saved DACA, and oh, by the way, we found a way to balance the budget. So the man isn't going to win entirely here. So,
But he gets the taxes lowered.
yeah.
That I could see that scenario seems plausible to me.
I think it's a pretty brilliant move. But I mean,
I don't think he's that smart. But
I don't think he came up with that way. I don't think he came up with it because he's not smart.
It's kind of like Doug Flutie's Hail Mary pass.
well, that's right. Even a blind mice find cheese every once in a while. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So DACA, healthcare reform, and taxes are all like pawns. Well, not the taxes, but the DACA and healthcare reform are pawns to get the tax.
Right.
Get the tax reform.
To get the tax reform done.
Wow.
It wins the prize.
That's probably the most plausible thought I've heard, because him just all of a sudden saying, I'm ending DACA didn't make any sense alone.
Came out of nowhere.
Yeah, that didn't make any sense alone.
So he must know he's onto something.
Because he always makes sense.
Well, he never makes sense.
Okay.
But I think.
Kind of like Bill Clinton getting a blowjob in the office right after ending welfare. He had to divert the nation's attention.
Lane.
I don't think I'm mad at Bubba. It's standards.
It works.
You're the president of the United States.
You don't just peek your head out the door. Hey, you, come here, with the beret. Yeah, you.
Just like Kennedy, call up your boy Hugh Hefner and be like, yo.
I'm learning a lot of shit tonight.
You're like, what episode is this? I'm going to go back and listen to it again.
Yeah, so, okay.
Episode 73.
Yeah. So with, and I think you're right. I think with him kind of dangling DACA, he knows healthcare is dead in the water. He knows the wall's dead in the water. Like basically the only campaign promise at this point
Taxes.
he could pull off is taxes. Which is always hilarious to me that his base in general, what Trump reminds me of is and he is a New Yorker, so he reminds me of the dude on New York street corner playing the shell game. It's just find the lady, and you're watching intently and you can never find a goddamn lady because he's figured out how to trick you. He's figured out how to cup the ball. He's figured out how to do 1,000 things so that you never find what it is that you think you know exactly where it is, and his constituents seem like those people who are coming in to New York City from another state and go, oh, they playing 3-Car Money on the street. Ew, I'm gonna give it a try. And you're like, oh, you sucker. Because you know they're about to get taken. And they have no idea that they're about to get taken. But like, this is what this dude takes people for a living. You work a factory job in Ohio somewhere. Like, this is your one trip to New York City, and you're about to get taken for $50 on the street corner. Like, and he reminds me of that guy. He reminds me of, like, I know how to take people who, have no idea that they're even being taken. And because tax reform is not going to do anything helpful for his base of voters, and I think that's the thing that made me kind of angry about Trump in general. Every single campaign promise in there, I'm like, but that's gonna fuck you. I'm like, every one of them. I'm like, how is that help? That's not helping you at all.
20 episodes back, we had this conversation. The greatest trick Republicans ever pulled off was changing political discourse from an argument about money to an argument about culture in order to get an entire class of people to vote against their best interests.
Yes. Yeah, we actually did.
My parents do it every year, and it doesn't matter what I say to them.
Yeah. No,
I'm just like beating my head against the wall.
And also too, he has beaten the moneyed class into submission. A lot of people don't know is he also let it leak that the 1031 exchange loophole, which I'll explain what that is in a second.
With the capital gains thing?
Well, with real estate, he said that's going to be on the chopping block in order to pay for taxes and the Affordable Care Act. Mm-hmm. And so he'll never do that because he'll kill his real estate business. Mm-hmm. But he let that leak to scare the living shit out of these people, and then he's going to point to DACA, in other words, the immigration reform, as, hey, this is how we're able to keep your fucking loophole. So shut your mouth.
Yeah.
I got lost there again. I know a little bit about the capital gains thing. So you sell house A here, you make a profit, you move it over.
It's not just houses; it's any kind of real property. It could be a jet, could be a car, could be a piece of equipment.
Yeah, right.
But you're allowed. So when you make that sale, if you elect to do a 1031 exchange, which you have to make that election
90 days.
Within 45 days, you have to make that election. You have a total of 90 days to consummate the transaction. Mm-hmm. But you have 45 days to identify a like-kind piece of property. In other words, jet to jet, tractor to tractor, real estate to real estate.
So you don't have to pay.
Right? So you don't have to pay the capital gains tax or the recapture of depreciation. Because when you own an asset, you can depreciate it, right? Well, when you sell it, you got to pay the IRS. So the cool thing about the 1031 is you can tie your money up in income-producing property and never pay the government. And then when you die, your heirs inherit your stuff stepped up to market value. So the IRS never gets paid. It's glorious. So so anyway, that's if you look at the Fortune 500 list and you take out everybody who inherited their money, 3/4 of those people made their money in real estate using that 1031 exchange to build their way up.
Lane, do they? I don't think they actually know like what you do or did for a living.
I just make money.
You still do? Are you still a financial advisor?
No, I manage a family office, which is a really fancy way of saying a private wealth management company.
Right.
So, and previously he was a financial advisor. And
now
he also has a what, law degree?
Yeah. And I'm working on my master's in finance from Harvard.
And he has 3 Purple Hearts?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
I'm not running for Congress ever.
Well, I've got some questions for you off record.
I'd rather make money.
Lane likes to talk about money and how to like
fuck the system.
Yes. All day long.
I need to learn that.
Lane is my Democratic Manafort. When I run, he's the guy. Look right over this shoulder. He'll be way in the back going, these suckers, they don't know what's coming.
So when you look at the timing, 3 months ago he told the real estate the call it the wealthy class, hey, the 1031's in play, and then he comes out and says, well, I'm going to go ahead and rescind DACA, and then he turns around and says, wait a minute, I'm going to give you a 6-month extension. And now he's turning the heat up on the tax bill. It all makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
He's forcing his two greatest opponents, the limousine liberals and limousine Republicans, as well as anyway, he's forcing anybody who's in opposition to him to play ball on this one issue so that their one pet project survives.
Yes.
Damn.
Yeah, I say
I'm a little lost on how the 1031 ties into it.
Okay, so what will end up happening? I mean, this is all conjecture on my part.
it's all chessboard
Yeah.
stuff. It's not that they tie directly.
thing
It's
is-
you're so tied to this issue
Right.
that if I can concede on this, you'll have to
Right.
concede on
Yeah.
that.
The
That's
two-
really what it is.
Yeah, you don't have to know anything about the 1031. Like you're so caught up, you're so emotionally attached to the DACA situation.
But understand that what Trump's going to tell these wealthy guys, like, listen, if we don't allow this path to citizenship, I'm going to have to take away the 1031 because the 1031 is costing us hundreds of billions of dollars a year, and we got to pay for the Affordable Care Act, or none of us eat. So, so in other words, you give me immigration, and I'll let you keep your tax loophole.
Since everyone's making a ton of money on it, they're like, okay, yeah, let's do it.
Oh, they're at the end of the day, they're never gonna let
No,
go.
you're like, oh, you mean my wallet?
Right.
Saying, like, actually, yeah, let's do something.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
The only one that's going to get screwed in all of this is going to be the middle class.
at the end of the day.
Because what the middle class at first is going to look at this, and go, oh great, my tax bill went down. Yeah, nominally, I mean, but okay, cool. So we shaved 3, 4, 5% off your tax rate, but the guys who should be paying their fair share don't have any earned income anyway. It's all in real estate and stocks. Right?
I hear guys like Robert Kiyosaki and those
Yeah.
guys talk about they don't pay taxes on the
Yeah.
passive income. You have investment property.
Yeah.
How does that happen? If I lease my condo out
Right.
and the tenant pays me,
Right.
don't I have to report that income?
So check this out. For example, in my latest project, my latest completed project, I bought this 180 unit apartment complex in Tulsa, right? And between the mortgage interest deduction, right, and the depreciation of the property, it's going to be tax-free income for the next 7 years. And then right around that time where I'm going to have to start paying taxes on that tenant income, I'm going to sell the property and 1031 it into a new one.
So private companies can do this with manufacturing facilities,
exactly.
equipment.
And they do. That's the game.
Yeah. Wow.
So the tenant income
Yeah.
is. One second, real. Thank you for putting this on.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I didn't mean
I'm
to turn this
learning
into
more than what I learned.
No.
So
This is the stuff they don't teach you at high school.
yeah, this shit. They don't teach this shit.
They don't teach you this in college. Like they don't teach you this shit.
This is the real shit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the tenant income is not taxable.
Well, no, tenant income is taxable. It's just offset by the deduction from the mortgage interest and the deduction from the depreciation.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So between the two,
In fact,
Yeah.
that property I was talking about right now is a 5% tax credit, meaning at the end of the day, I still have 5% of my tax credit unused that I can roll over into the next year.
So what you do is then, when you sell it, you have 45 days to go buy a new
Oh,
property.
I'll already have a project identified. Like, it'll be like 10
So
days.
but then you'll have it set, and then that's where you actually, you'll actually make money.
Sure.
But it's still tied to the next property.
Right.
Okay.
But the juice from that property comes to
rolling.
me tax free.
So where did that bump happen?
What bump?
Right. So you sell the property
Right.
and you're putting it into the next one.
Right.
So you said that you sell it at a market value, which has gone up.
Oh yeah,
Just over the
absolutely.
years?
So I mean, yeah. So this property, I'll make money on the loan amortization. In other words, people paying my mortgage. The property value is going up, hopefully, and as well as the income, right? But that income is going to be tax free. Anyway, so what I'm getting at is that 1031 is going to prevent me from having to pay the IRS the depreciation recapture, right? As well as the difference between my cost basis, which was lowered, right?
Yep.
And the higher market value. So all that huge chunk of money rolls into the next property.
And you kind of start over.
Clock starts ticking again. Bing.
That's awesome.
Which is
why these rich people are like, you know what, Trump, you can have immigration.
they don't want
Do not take away my
because if you think about it, like I said, most of these people, it's either stocks or real estate,
Right.
And so when they, when you're gonna roll properties or roll stock options or whatever over to like your kids, that's the reason that they wind up rolling into it and never having to pay taxes on it,
Right.
because it's.
And I bet you that tax cut they'll give us will be equal to the tax receipts we gain from all these new citizens.
Right. So it's a zero-sum game at that
It
point.
is, it
You
is.
gotta keep it equal. Or close to.
Yeah, which is why another reason why people get into the flip game, because you get in, get it, get the value up as high as you can get it, flip it, buy something else real quick, and you keep stacking and you keep stacking.
Yeah.
Like that's really why people get in the flip game,
And not pay taxes the whole way.
and not pay taxes the whole way up.
But what about your profit?
Oh, that's in the 1030. It's protected.
That's protected by 1031.
Because you put it in the new property.
Well, how would you pull it out of the new property, like a HELOC or something?
No, when you sell it.
Yeah, right. When you sell it, you're gonna get a check cut to you when you sell it.
Right.
But that's not taxable because that's protected by the 1031. But you still get to keep the money.
It's like a 401k for real estate.
And you're making money all along the way, like if you had tenants or something, but the money you're making, right, is offset in taxes because it's actually costing you on paper. It's costing you
On
more.
paper.
On paper, it's costing you more to like upgrade it and keep that thing going, and then so therefore you're not paying taxes, right?
Yeah.
You spend $40,000 working on it, you made $40,000 from it, and then when you sell, you move that to the next property and do the same thing, keep going.
So that's why I think Trump is using the 1031 gambit to make sure the Republicans play ball on the immigration, and he's using immigration as a gambit to make sure the Democrats play ball on tax reform.
Insidious.
Three card.
See,
three card?
I told you he's three car money. He's 3-car money hustling. This is just on a much larger scale. Okay, so actually we wound up talking about DACA. We wound up talking about Trump siding with the Dems, which was on my list to talk about today. And I will admittedly say I don't know as much about this particular thing as I would like to, but I did want to talk a little bit about the Equifax hack and what that could possibly mean to regular folks. I don't know, to tell you the truth, if it's going to wind up well, I don't think it's going to mean anything for me. I mean, if they get my my Social Security information or tax information, they're just gonna be practicing. But I think that's a generally scary proposition. That what did they say it was, like 20 million?
It's over half of the U.S. population was exposed. But they said if you have a credit report, there's a good chance that you're one of the 143 million Americans.
Yeah,
It also affected UK and Canada.
Okay.
But yeah, because they said it lasted from mid-May through July. And the hackers accessed people's names, social security numbers, birthdays, addresses, and in some instances, driver's license numbers.
Wow.
They also stole credit card numbers of about 209,000 people and dispute documents with personal identification number for about 182,000 people.
That is cool.
That's like half of adults, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you can't, you don't have a credit report until you're 18.
I know.
so-
I'm just thinking. I mean, if they wanted to make it sound better.
Yeah. Yeah. Like half of American adults, they got your info. That's scary, man. I mean,
Wouldn't that tie in? You were asking about Bitcoin and it's untraceable and all that kind of stuff. Doesn't that push
So
the
if you,
financial world to try to find something that's a little less traceable? I mean, because we all have social security numbers, date of birth, all that good stuff.
well, technically your social security number isn't supposed to be used for a personal identification the way that it is. It was never meant to be used that way. So maybe
they do,
right,
but
it wasn't
supposed
supposed to be.
There's a law against that?
It's written in the Social Security from when they actually started giving people numbers that it was just supposed to be for you to get Social Security when you retired. It wasn't meant to be your identification number.
Which is why there's like no security around it. Like, you know, I mean,
But if you go out to the
think John
Federal
also-
Trade Commission, there's things that like they're giving, you know, you can go out and enroll in like a year's worth of free monitoring. And now I don't know if you want to do it on Equifax's site. That's probably, you know, who knows. But there's things that they said you can try to do if you want to, you know, you can go out and put in your information and see if you were actually affected. It's like your last name and the last 6 digits of your social security number.
So I heard that if you go in to check, like they gave these tools to go check if you were one of them, but the only way that they give you the results is if you agreed to not
Arbitration.
sue them.
Yeah, they want you
Like,
to.
that's got to be illegal, right?
No, it's not.
It's not illegal, but
no.
it sounds pretty unethical.
It's not though. I mean, companies. I hate to say that, but companies do
signing
that.
anything.
Yeah, companies do that all the time. So yeah, before you sign up for something, definitely read the small print.
But they're like,
DST did that.
they're like, we'll tell you if your information was breached, only if you promise not to sue us if it was.
So is that like
They've already got hit with 23 class action lawsuits.
Excellent.
I was hoping it was some people on some Fight Club shit was trying to take it down. That's what I was hoping.
I was reading that before this, they were trying to heavily pass a law that about something like, you know, not having to monitor it, or you know, you don't get in trouble for it or whatever, and then they got hacked. Yeah, probably. And their stock closed at -8 point something today.
Good.
It went from 100 and something to -8 point something.
So is this why like the wealthy use like the Dems number and tax IDs and stuff like that to kind of hedge?
Well, it's because they put all their assets in LLCs and trusts that aren't tied to a social security number.
Right.
So is that the way to go then?
I just
costs a lawyer
LLC.
money to make it happen.
You should move all your stuff to your LLC.
Sounds like we need to take a couple $100 and buy some Equifax stock. Because when they roll, because you know me, when there's blood in the streets,
It's time to buy.
buy real estate.
Buy low, sell high.
Buy low, sell high. I'm like, because they will fix the problem. It will come back up. And if they're at -8, we can come up when it comes back up.
Hey, on that, I recently LLC'd. Actually, I got my all my paperwork. I still got some of it today, so I recently did that.
It's not
Brain
that
Mass
much. It's
LLC.
not that-
Actually.
Hey! I say I only take 1% for giving you Brain Mass as a name. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
Yeah, that's pretty fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's
Did it in Kansas,
nice.
Awesome.
so that's the way to do it.
So there's a perk for Kansas?
Why is it? Why do a lot of
No. If you,
Lane, do you know why a lot of companies have their corporations out of like Delaware and places like that?
Because Delaware and Nevada make it, let's just say that there are better odds of Christ returning than you being able to, what they say, penetrate the veil. In other words, an LLC will shield you from liability of the company as an owner, right? So in those two states, it is next to impossible to get through that LLC to go after somebody personally.
Because that's where our company is incorporated through.
I do have to mention that there is a perk in Kansas that if you sell a non-tangible asset, then there's no sales tax.
Nice. Okay.
So if I do consulting, that's non-tangible, no sales tax.
Oh shit.
Great.
If I build anything online at all, no sales tax.
Love it.
Yeah.
That was a good perk for you.
Yeah. Software.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Why do they consider that non-tangible? Like it's not physical.
Download in the cloud.
Yep.
Yeah,
You can't touch it.
You're not buying it.
So I mean that's like yeah. All right.
See, you learn all kinds of stuff there. You enjoy it.
You picked a good one to sit in on.
They did.
Yeah. You're like, damn, it is loopholes on top of the loopholes.
They really did.
God
This is
damn.
stuff I want to say, but I want to talk to Lane off record and Rain Mask because I got some questions.
Yeah, well, yeah. So, yeah, we generally keep talking after the show. So,
Let's talk about 9/11.
so yes, let's move forward. Since today, the day we're actually recording this podcast, I know that you guys don't hear this until Fridays, but we record on Mondays, and of course today's Monday is 9/11, and that brought a couple of questions to mind, and one was, have we grown as a nation, or are we suffering the fate of the arrogant? Yeah, it's interesting to me that a ton of the things that were happening in this country on 9/11 and some of the reasons that we were attacked in the first place haven't changed, you know, and our view and standing in the world in some ways has diminished since 9/11, and that, you know, that's concerning because
Not only that, I mean, so yeah, we're no safer, and we're certainly not nearly as respected. And on top of that, our freedoms have been reduced by things like the Patriot Act, the militarization of the police force. I think we're in a lot worse shape.
Yeah, and that.
Were you serving at that? Were you old enough?
I was a freshman at West Point when that happened. In fact, I was taking an illegal nap.
Isn't it crazy? Like our
That's hilarious.
parents,
An illegal nap. That is hilarious.
Our parents didn't that like negatively affect you at one point for taking a nap somewhere where you should have been taking a nap?
Oh,
like
tons of times.
Out the field or
Yeah, when I fell asleep in I used to.
Bad things happen when you take naps.
Yeah,
Lane.
I don't know. All I know is like some upperclassman came bursting in my room and damn near killed me from a heart attack. And he's like, "We're at war." And I'm like, "Oh God, they're gonna hurry up. They're gonna speed up graduation. I'm out of here."
Little did you know what he meant by that.
Damn it!
Oh no, we're at war. Oh shit!
Fuck.
It's kind of crazy to think about it. Like our parents' generation, like they knew where they were at when, you know, Kennedy was assassinated or something like that. Like I can vividly remember what I was doing when 9/11 happened.
I was curled up and concealed in my wardrobe. Like, you know, it opened up and I crawled in, closed it. You know, because freshmen aren't allowed to take. You're not supposed to be sleeping between like 5 in the morning and midnight. I was like, whatever.
Like, well,
I'm going to.
I need a nap, goddammit. So.
Like, did you not learn how to sleep with your eyes open?
No.
What he sounds like, and I still don't.
That's a creepy thing.
Yeah.
I was.
How do we get back to that? I mean, like.
Yeah, that was my other question. Like, how do we get back to a place of better standing on the world stage? How do we?
I think that requires a change in government.
Yeah, well, attitude does reflect leadership, and we know who leadership is right now, and yeah.
He's definitely not respected.
No. You know, as a matter of fact, I was looking at this interview. Anybody out there in podcast land who knows hip hop artist Mos Def, probably one of the most talented cats in the business, but he's kind of always pushed to be very, very independent and avant-garde with how he does his music and the acting roles that he takes. But for whatever reason, Hot 97 in New York caught him on a day, and they were interviewing him, and they were really just interviewing him about kind of his world travels, because that's really what he's been doing most of late. And because he had an issue in, I want to say in South Africa, where he's got what they call a world passport, and they weren't
honoring it.
Yeah, they weren't honoring it, so they weren't allowing him to leave. And so he was stuck there for like 2 or 3 months, and
In South Africa?
he said he had a great time and he got a lot of work done, met some great people, but they weren't letting him leave the country until legally that got hashed out. But
shakedown.
Yeah, it sounded like shakedown. And, but you know, one of the questions that I remember them asking him was, hey, you know, because of the amount of travel that you do and people that you know across the world, what are other countries thinking of America right now, and particularly of our president right now? And he's like, well, everybody that I know, no matter what country they're from, they're all basically saying the same thing. Like what the fuck happened? Like what is wrong with, like, how does this clown show start? Because, you know, like, I don't think anybody globally can believe it. Like, we can't believe it, but most countries really do look at the United States as kind of the castle on the hill, and as setting kind of a global example. And how did we allow Donald Trump to get to the White House? I remember watching that interview, and
Because we ran Hillary Clinton instead of Dr. Dre.
Dr. Dre for president. I never thought about that.
He can't be a president.
Dr. Dre. He does have a criminal record here.
Okay, fine. Jimmy Iovine.
Okay.
There you go.
Jimmy Iovine for president. Actually, work. See, okay, all right. So
Just gotta wear your beat.
He can do.
So first of all,
he can be his personal. He can be an advisor to the president.
So first of all, let me say this is Lane's way of trolling me into a conversation that I was gonna have on a later podcast, because we are both really big fans of HBO. Just did a mini series called The Defiant Ones about Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine, and it was an incredible 4-hour kind of documentary on their career histories, but given that suggestion, Jimmy Iovine for president, Eminem said in the doc that Dr. Dre's the innovator, Jimmy Iovine is the levitator. You're like he can just will shit to happen, because for whatever reason he can see the future very clearly. You know, when it comes to music artists, like he knows talent when he sees it. And if anybody remembers the late 90s, early 2000s of Interscope Records, Jimmy couldn't miss. He couldn't miss to save his life. I mean, so we're talking 9 Inch Nails, we're talking No Doubt, Of course, Dr. Dre, Marilyn Manson, Snoop Dogg, Tupac,
Eminem.
U2.
Yeah.
And we could go further back, and we're just talking the Interscope days. Like he's brilliant at spotting talent and relentless at the deal.
Then he flipped the brand that Dre built into Beats. And sold that to Apple and took over.
And took over Apple. So if there's any one person who has not done anything political, but understands the politics of getting things done,
Right.
might be Jimmy Iovine.
Well, if you understand culture, you'll own politics.
Yeah, and he knows culture like the back of his hand, and he's the one who knew.
He also knows how to make money. It's perfect.
Hey, so I think one of the things that I thought was great was Dr. Dre's on his balcony, looking out at the beach. Jimmy Iovine's walking up the beach. He's like, "Hey, Dre, hey, come up." So they come up, they're talking. What's going on? And I'm a lawyer. He's fielding me these opportunities people are throwing out at me, and I don't know. People keep wanting me to do a sneaker, and he's like, "Sneakers? You do a sneaker? You should do speakers." And he goes, "Shit, speakers? yeah, speakers." And he goes, "You know what? Yeah, speakers."
Yeah.
And gets up and leaves. He said he's only there 10 minutes. A week later, he said, "Dre, meet me at the office." He goes, he's got like just a mile-long table full of prototype headphones already. Already. And that's when Dr. Dre goes, "Oh, I'm in the speaker business now." Right. And of course, they created Beats, and Jimmy was the one that knew all we have to do is get them on the ears of the right people and take a picture of it, and people will notice and people will buy.
Getting back to how we elected Donald Trump.
Yeah.
The Democrats ran somebody who was tone deaf on culture, and Donald Trump wasn't. From a Machiavellian standpoint.
That's one I will give you. Because I think you're absolutely right. I think at the time the Democrats didn't learn anything from the election of Barack Obama, in that if any one Democrat knew culture, Barack knew culture, and he knew how to talk to that base and get them electrified. And Hillary, who, I still say, from a policy practitioner, she's surgical. Like she can get anything done, but she's not the person you want to hear talk. Yeah. You don't want to see her do shit.
She ran it like she's an attorney, and he ran it like he's running a reality.
And because that's the culture we live in. And Barack knew he wasn't a reality star, but he knew the one thing Democrats really wanted. Right. They wanted somebody who could appear to be, if Martin Luther King could run for some shit.
Right.
Like that's the way, like white, black, otherwise, Democrats across the board, that's what they were looking for.
Right.
And that's exactly what he gave them. And like he was polished to the point with speeches, to the point of a preacher.
Right.
And the entire Democratic base was like, yeah, that guy. And on the converse side, you know, on the Republican base, they didn't want anybody polished. They wanted somebody who talked super plain. And nobody talks plainer than Donald Trump because he doesn't have much of a vocabulary to begin with. Because everything is very, very bad.
So who could the Democrats run that could speak to both the blue-collar white guy in Ohio and the rap mogul in Beverly Hills and the guy on the street in Oakland? I mean,
I don't know. Honestly,
that's what it's going to take to win.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think, honestly, like, maybe Cory Booker, but he's not ready. He's not ready yet. Like, I think he could get there, but I don't think he's ready yet. I think he's probably 2 cycles away before he's
still very intimidated by it.
Yeah, like, because, you know, there is by Cory Booker.
Oh, Booker,
Well,
yeah.
the thing that's interesting about Cory Booker is he's got the same kind of quality that Barack had, in that you can dig all day and you're still just gonna find a good guy. And that was the thing that I think, you know, really killed them running against Barack. They were trying to make him not be a good guy, but there was nothing to find, and everybody knew it.
Whereas Hillary was the Antichrist.
Yeah, well, and it was like, if you dig just a little bit with Hillary, I don't think that she was a horrible human, but I do think there was plenty of stuff for people to go, I don't know if I like that. Right. You know, and whereas Barack, you'd be like, well, he attended the church where once the preacher said something that he wasn't even there that goddamn day. Yeah. You know, like, so they were like, you're reaching, and everybody felt that they were reaching, and they voted because they knew that. But with Hillary, the problem is even the stuff that isn't true. Here's the real problem: even the stuff that isn't true felt like it could be true. Yeah. That was the problem with Hillary. And so nobody gave her the benefit of the doubt.
I wish Sly James had more national exposure.
Yeah. He's got that kind of a personality that he could intelligently plain talk. And that's what Barack had. He was hyper intelligent. But he could talk plain, but it was intelligent plain. It wasn't just very, very bad. Bad, you know, with the face, and anyway. With all that being said, you know, obviously we at the table don't have any 9/11 answers as to exactly what we can do, but we do hope that that the Democratic Party.
Anybody,
potentially. Yeah, just, you know. Okay, so here's my other thing.
Somebody the world can respect.
I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Bernie, he knew how to talk to the party,
right?
But the stuff that he was saying wasn't gonna get him elected. No. Like I love Bernie, but the stuff he was saying, he wasn't electable because of it.
It's almost too far-fetched.
Yeah,
it was too good.
It was too right. It was
I could make a perfect world.
Well, the stuff that he's proposing isn't out of the realm, because it's possible and is happening in other countries. But for us to adopt all of the stuff that Bernie was suggesting turns us into Canada. Right. And no American wants to be Canada. True. And so they will reject. I mean, his base and you being the millennial at the table, you probably can go with me. I forget you're a millennial.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're like, you got a lot going on in here. I forget sometimes you're a millennial.
Oh, he does.
I know. I mean, I've given you the name brain mass. I just happen to know your age. I forget Lane's age sometimes.
34.
Yeah, I forget Lane's age, that's all. It's like, I just happen to know your age. I forget his age. But, since we're not ever going to decide collectively to become Canada, I think that everything that he was saying to a huge chunk of the millennial audience sounded incredible, and it did sound incredible. But at the end of the day, all those people who were Bernie voters didn't cross over and say, okay, well, let's do the adult thing and let's vote for Hillary now.
They threw a fit.
They threw a fit. They didn't vote. Some of them voted for Trump. It was, and yeah. So we've got to run a candidate that can run.
But I want to point out that I feel like that shows a little immaturity, right? I mean, or maybe a lot of immaturity, and I think that's kind of interesting. Just from
What?
right? Well, they throw a fit.
Dianne
Don't vote,
Feinstein would have been a
or
good
vote
pick.
for someone that just because kind of like didn't throw a fit. It's like,
you did my guy wrong, so I'm just not gonna vote for anybody. And I'm like, that's really not how this works, kids. You need to.
And guess what happens?
And this is hey, out there in podcast land. Out there.
Did you say true story?
Hey, out there in podcast land. Remember, the fact that you threw a fit and you didn't vote, or you voted for a candidate that you knew you shouldn't have voted for because your guy.
I'm glad Chris isn't here for this conversation.
Because.
And you know what? And now we're all playing that game.
Yeah.
But we can't walk away from.
Oh yeah, no.
That's the difference.
Yeah, no, you can't walk away from the table now. You're as they say in Vegas, your money's on the wood. You have got to finish playing this hand. You've got to, and we can't afford to throw any more fits. Like you know what happens if you take your ball and go home.
Right.
The bullies take over the ball court. That's what happens.
Which I think will make it really interesting the next round.
It's funny you bring up that immaturity thing. Because of that little fit, the Republicans now control the Supreme Court probably for the next 30 years. Mm-hmm. Right? Which means that any bit of Bernie's agenda that you had any hope of passing, it's not going to happen for 30 fucking years. All right, so let's start small.
Yeah,
control Congress.
And by that time, they'll all want to vote Republican anyway because they're going to be old and be like, right?
Well,
get off my lawn, kid.
Yeah.
They're all going to be. So you think all old people vote Republican?
I think it starts with. It starts with cleaning up the immigration mess, right?
Yeah.
And I feel that the immigration issue will actually strengthen the unions, and if you strengthen the unions, that strengthens the Democratic, call it the middle of the road base.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So now they have a chance.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So Trump may actually do us a huge favor.
Yeah, I'm about to say, in his one term, he may actually do Democrats a favor.
Right.
We shall see.
Anyway.
And with that.
And the world.
With that, we'll be right back.
So glad David's in here.
Hey, you having a good time? Let me introduce you to a couple of my media brothers. First, www.americathemixtape.com, a cipher on American politics, society, and culture. And where'd I get that mixtape? Of course, www.cornerbodega.us, purveyors of urban culture. Come on, let's get back to the party. And we are back. And before we get out of here, let's talk about today's sugar, honey, iced tea. For those that don't know, these are things that I or a member of the group have found that are really cool, aka the shit. And today's sugar, honey, iced tea is antibiotics. Yes, antibiotics. The reason that antibiotics are the shit is because, last weekend,
Venereal disease.
shut up, Lane. I've had to say shut up, Lane in months. See, here you go. So,
We miss you.
last week, the anonymous female and I, we were in Vegas with some friends, and the week before that, the anonymous female had come down with something that did not.
The day before we left for vacation.
Yeah, and they got her started on her round of antibiotics, and she felt better the next morning. So good that we were able to still go to Vegas. And then, so we went. We had a good time. I was pulled into some shit, got embarrassed, came back, and then I got sick, and the next day got on antibiotics and felt much better that next morning. That is why, for me, this week anyway, antibiotics are the shit. and I'm not saying just go out and willy-nilly take you some antibiotics, but hey, if you're feeling something coming on, carry your ass to the doctor and tell them you need one of them Z-packs.
Don't spread the love.
Immunize your children too, damn it.
Look,
These things are little disease vectors.
Look, I understand out there in podcast land, some of you are saying that if I immunize, my kid's gonna get some crazy shit, he's gonna get autism, he's gonna get shit.
There's no proof of that.
You know, I'm gonna be harsher with that. Shut your ass up. Carry your kid to the doctor, get your kids them shots, and send them to regular school. We're trying to homeschool these kids. Now they ain't got no social skills. Talk to nobody.
And not acting right isn't autism. It just means you need to beat your kid.
We do not condone beating children on this podcast.
But an occasional woman, as my grandmother would say, ain't never hurt nobody. Spare the ride, sport a child. That's all I'm saying. Anyway,
it cures autism.
with all
Jordan's over there, we homeschool. We're planning on homeschooling. And we're not gonna vaccinate.
we weren't gonna vaccinate. What the hell?
We just got his shots. That's
As well you should, Daddy.
Yeah,
remember that. You only got two damn jobs. Immunize your child and keep your daughter off the pole. Do both. That's all you need to do.
You just succeeded as a parent.
You just succeeded as a human being and as a parent. And with all that said, I'm going to end this podcast in a way that I end all podcasts, and that is with the toast that started it all for me, and that is to good times with good people.